It's funny. Of all the books I've written so far, the one that's most popular is Long Trail to Justice, which I wrote with Bob Hanlon and Casey Nash. I'm very proud of this book. And the genesis is that Bob and Casey and I were sitting around chatting about our various characters. Of course, Bob writes the Timber series, and Casey writes the Jubal Stone series. And we realized that Flint and Stone and Timber were all dramatically different people. I mean, really different people. So the question would be, if they were involved in one single Western adventure, how would they interact with each other and how would they play off one another? And the whole idea behind the book was to put them in enough dangerous and threatening situations where they could shine as characters themselves, but also interplay off one another and sort of barb. They all like each other, but they're dramatically different people, so they disagree on everything. So you have not only the conflict of the story, but the conflict between the three of them. So the way you title a book is always a very funny thing. When I've been writing the Flint series, my Marshall Ezra Flint series, I try to keep it to two-word titles. It's either Cry Flint or Flint Revenge, or sometimes I go for three words, and it's Hard as Flint or Cold as Flint. But because this was going to be an epic combination of three marshals who are very popular with readers. We decided we needed an epic title. And when you think about the West, what are the themes that always come up? And the Western is almost always about justice, but it's also always about traveling and distances. And the long trail to justice resonated with the three of us because it really sounded like something that an ordeal that they were going through and also an end that they were trying to find. So the long trail to justice had a sort of Western poetry to it. And that's the other thing about Westerns is that when you're writing Westerns, they have a distinct sound, and you want to get a distinct sound in your Westerns. A lot of people say Westerns are not serious literature, but I would argue that there is no more poetic pose, or prose rather, in the English language than in a good Western. You know, so Long Trail to Justice, so far is my most successful book. And I had a great time, as I said, writing it with Bob and Casey. And the feedback that I have gotten that has resonated the most with me is that somebody had written a review saying that there's this sequence where Timber and Flint are trading tall tales with each other, mainly because they're on this long trail and they're trying to amuse themselves. And the reader said that this was, like the most hysterical thing that they had read in a Western, and they were laughing off their chairs. And I always try to interject a little bit of humor in everything. And one other thing, I had gotten a wonderful review for Long Trail to Justice, where somebody said that they had read 2,000 Westerns over the last 3 or 4 years. And this was the best Western that they had read. And if somebody has read, 2 or 3 thousand Westerns over the last couple of years, and yours is the very best, it's probably a good book. If you want to write Westerns, it's a good idea to read Westerns. So I always go back to the masters. I read or have read a lot of Zane Grey, of course, a lot of Max Brand, a lot of Jack Schaefer. I think if you want to write a Western, definitely read Monty Walsh by Jack Schaefer or Shane by Jack Schaefer. They're two of the best Western novels ever written. And of course, The Virginian by Owen Wister. But I will tell you a funny thing. Somebody once said to me or asked me, Scott, how do you write a Western? And I said, well, if you want to write a Western, take any story from the Old Testament and put a horse in it. So always remember that a Western is a morality tale. and you can find morality tales not only in uh, the writings of ancient Greece and Rome, but go back to the Bible, and you will find, pardon me, all the morality tales you could possibly want, and you just rewrite them and redress them in Western garb, and you have a Western novel. If you want to write Westerns, the first thing I would recommend is that you read mine. No, seriously, if you're a new writer and you want to write Westerns, read wildly or widely, and wildly for that matter, in the market so you can understand what people are reading. Because I think a lot of people who want to be writers forget that the very first obligation they have is to be entertainers. Your job as a writer is to write books that people want to read. So read books that people are buying and people are reading. And then if you can crack that nut, what is it that people like? Then you could start addressing the question of, well, how do I make it better? But definitely read the field, read the genre, and then find a publisher. And I'm blessed in my publisher. I work with Nick Whale at DSP, and he's the best person in publishing I've worked with in my whole career. But if you can find a publisher who will guide you and nurture you and help you figure out what your strengths are, that's 90% of the battle. So I would say read, write a lot, figure out what's selling, and then find the right publishing partner. Remember, if you're one of the people who liked Long Trail to Justice with Marshals, Flint, Timber, and Stone, we are now, the three of us, working on a sequel called Showdown at Red Hollow, filled with the same kind of thrills and Western adventure that you liked in Long Trail to Justice. That'll be out in a couple of, it'll be out in a month or so. That's Showdown at Red Hollow, the sequel to Long Trail to Justice. I hope you like it just as much. We're having just as much fun writing it. Look for it.